Hey everyone, this is a suggestion video for Killing Floor 2. Recently there's been a lot of negativity on the Killing Floor 2 subreddit, and I wanted to pitch some of my ideas on how to fix what is bothering people about the recent Treacherous Skies update. And I've also got some other ideas for the game, and I'll include them here because, well, I already made the video, and I love this game and I want to love it more. So with that, let's get started. EDAR. Everyone is hating the EDAR, and for good reason. It just does not fit the theme of the game, or the Zed as an enemy. It breaks your immersion from the game, so I have kind of a three-step plan here. Step one, remove it, for now, at least. Yeah, the developers probably put a lot of work into this idea, so don't scrap it, no pun intended, completely. Instead, let's improve on the concept of EDAR by making it into an Elite Husk variant, or EH for short. This Husk variant, it can have lots of armor, just like the EDAR, if that's what the developers want. It doesn't really bother me. It can have the three weapon variants. We'll call it an upgraded Husk cannon, which is the rocket variant of the current EDAR. Then the containment laser beam, or the taser, and then of course the laser pew pew gloves. To kind of counteract this enemy, who would obviously be, you know, considerable when you're playing the game, I think this variant should explode 100% of the time. And that kind of makes up for the annoyance of the armor. Like, if you shoot through a bunch of the armor, you're rewarded by getting a little bit of crowd control on any other surrounding Zeds. So I think for Rocket, that should just be an explosion. And for the laser and taser enemies, an EMP blast is fine. I think the headless mechanic may have to go just because it doesn't make any sense for a Husk. Or, I mean, it can stay. You know, it's within the realm of believability with Zed, I suppose. I would say if they're headless, just penalize their accuracy with the taser, laser, or rocket so that they're much more likely to miss because they are headless and you should still reward the players for getting a headshot. And then last but not least, next year, just overhaul this idea, and if you want to do a steampunk event, just make all of the Zed robots for, you know, a couple weeks. We already do this with, you know, the summer sideshow. They have the clowns, and for the Krampus update, we have, you know, the gingerbread men and all that. The variants on the Zed are fun. I think the community would be okay with fighting some robots as long as everything was a robot and suddenly Killing Floor 2 was a, you know, robot killing game instead of a zombie killing game with one random robot thrown in the mix. And then for that overhaul of the steampunk event, you know, please make these robots bleed some sort of oil or something. The EDAR is super unsatisfying to kill, even when you do take off its head. I mean, if I remember correctly, there's like some sparks or some electricity when you shoot these guys. It just doesn't feel good, so I think it should go. All right, and moving right along with what's wrong with the Treacherous Skies update, fixing the upgrade system. So again, everyone is complaining about the update system. It's broken, it's not fun, it ruins good guns, and it makes others obsolete, and regardless of the updates you apply, it still kind of feels just like the same gun. This current mechanic, you know, it discourages teamwork via DOS sharing and weapon prioritization as well. So just like the EDAR, I think it should be removed. This is not a competitive PvP game, it's just for fun. At least that's how I play it. Balance is not, you know, as critical as it might be in a more competitive game like, you know, PlayerUnknown or say Counter-Strike Go, where, you know, there's people that are a little more hardcore about playing the game, if you will. I'm not saying get rid of all balance. Balance is fine to an extent, but the game, you know, should be fun, not punishing, and I think it's realistic to make some guns better than others. That's just the reality of, you know, firearms. Some guns are better than others in real life as well, so there's nothing wrong with that. So I think that the upgrade system should be removed entirely from survival. That mode is short enough to not really need the upgrade system at all. I think the tier 1 through 4 system that we've been playing with for, the last year or so is an acceptable model, and there's nothing wrong with it. I do think the upgrade system is interesting if it was applied correctly to Endless only. So how do we make it interesting? I think you have to base weapon upgrades in reality and focus on the functionality of the weapon. So to do this, not every choice would be available on every weapon, and I don't think any of these require a visual change because that starts getting complicated really quickly with the number of skins that the development team has added to this game. So what would these be like? I think it could start with weight reduction. In real life, people add skeletonized grips and minimalist stocks and lighter rail systems to their firearms to make them weigh less, not weigh more. Also, by getting rid of 1 or 2 weight off a weapon, suddenly new builds are available that are always just 1 weight, too much or whatever it may be. Next, I think, damage increases do make sense, but in real life, that's done through different types of ammo and ballistics, right? So do we have a hollow point round or an armor piercing round? Pretty straightforward. It might be through an increased ammo capacity through larger capacity magazines. That would probably add weight to your weapon, again, to counteract the weight reduction upgrade, because ammo has weight to it, and if you're holding more of it, there's more weight associated with that. I also think you could do upgrades that change your reload speed or give you faster aim down sight speed through things like angled foregrips, vertical foregrips, slings, ranger clips, whatever it might be. I got a bunch of pictures down there displaying all those things. This also is not inadvertently a commercial for Magpul products, so I do apologize for that. Away from the Treacherous Skies update, here are some things that I think would make Killing Floor 2 an even better game than it already is. First, whenever I play this game, I always change my INI files to do 3 things, and I don't believe that I should have to edit my INI files to do this, and I think these options should be made available to people that don't know or don't know how to update their INI files, since it's, I guess a little bit technical. I don't think it's hard, but it definitely isn't intuitive. So these updates are to turn on or turn off mouse acceleration, which I always do through INI, as well as to change the maximum number of dead bodies. I believe the default is 12, which I can't even imagine playing with that. I usually set mine to at least 100, and there's a little screenshot of kind of what that looks like. That might be more than 100, but it makes the game look really brutal. And some people may not be into that, and maybe it's too much, but I play Killing Floor to make the floor look like I've been killing Zed, and I'm into that, so I think that should be an option. Also, one thing I do is I disable ragdoll after death when I do this, because I don't enjoy throwing a grenade into a pile of 30 Zed bodies and then seeing all of them fly around. That can't be really cool, but it tanks my FPS on my system, so I like to disable that. So I think those 3 options would be a great addition to the game. I think a map filter would be an amazing quality of life addition to this game. So the screenshots here aren't really a good representation, but when I run my server, I sometimes have, upwards of 30 custom maps in this list, and it makes finding official maps kind of a nightmare sometimes, because they're mixed in sort of alphabetical order, I'm not really sure, in this list. I don't see why, if we already have a filtering system on our inventory, it wouldn't be, possible to add a map type filter that would, be for any map, an official map, or a workshop map. And that would just make it easier for me to find the map that I'm looking for and get me into the game faster with less list scrolling involved. I also think that this should be, not just on launch solo game, but also in between rounds and pretty much anywhere where you're selecting a map from. So whether that be the server browser or what have you. Bestiary, at least I think that's how it's pronounced. One of the things that I love about Killing Floor is, well, playing Killing Floor. But one of the things I don't love about Killing Floor is not necessarily being rewarded for playing. And that might sound kind of silly, but in my opinion, games are always more fun when you have kind of an objective to achieve. Whether or not that objective means anything, whatever. It can be artificial, that's fine. It still kind of makes the game feel better. So Killing Floor has actually gotten a lot better at that. They added loot drops at the end of matches, which is good, I think. It's always nice when you get a random skin, or even a crate is fine because you can recycle it. So that was a nice addition. The addition of the dailies added a lot of replayability. The weeklies, also same story. And then obviously the seasonal events, which are really fun. And then, Killing Floor just added that prestige system, which I think was a great addition to unlock, special skins and kind of promote replay value, right? So they've gotten better at that. But one thing that I think would be a great addition and kind of add some depth to the game and some polish maybe, since obviously the game's been out for a little bit now, would be a one-time discovery unlock system through the addition of a bestiary. So what's interesting is that this already kind of exists on the Killing Floor 2 website. They have a section called Overview where they give a whole bunch of interesting game information. It's kind of a marketing thing, but I believe a menu like the one you see on the left, in-game menu, would be great, especially if you could kind of rotate the enemy models and actually appreciate them for once instead of just blasting them away, because I think the skins are really interesting to look at. So how would this kind of work? In my mind, each entry of the bestiary would be locked by default and would be, say, unlocked after the 5th kill of that enemy. Now that's pretty low. I just made that number up. It could be whatever. And then I believe the weapon effectiveness stats should be unlocked, individually per weapon after killing, let's say, 50 of each Zed per weapon type. And obviously that number would have to be a lot lower for the boss, so we'll say, 5 instead of 50. And then there could be achievements associated with this as well through Steam. So let's say you complete the Scrake page, all the weapons, effectiveness, and of course having it unlocked. Boom, you get an achievement, whether that be, the Scrake Killer achievement or whatever you want to call it. I also think this would be a great place to actually view the seasonal skins during seasonal events, because I think those skins are somewhat underappreciated as well. And then having a blurb about the lore of each, Zed is fun, in my opinion. It gives you some insight into the game. Vein as the bestiary, I think an armory would be a great extension of the game as well. And again, this already basically exists on the Killing Floor 2 website. And it would give you the potential to, view your weapons in 3D, appreciate the models, and also maybe a preview area for your applied weapon skins without having to launch into a full game. And I don't know, maybe this would be also an area to preview unpurchased skins to, kind of promote people buying them. I don't know. That's up to the developers, I guess. So again, each entry would be locked by default. Let's say it gets unlocked after the first time you purchased that weapon. That wouldn't take very long at all, but that's okay. And then the effectiveness stats, kind of the fire rate, penetration, all that stuff, would be, say, unlocked after dealing 100,000 damage per weapon. I don't know how much 100,000 damage is, but I do know that there's dailies to deal 10,000 damage with a weapon, and you can usually complete it in a single match. So I would imagine the effectiveness stats would get unlocked after, say, playing roughly, 5 to 10 matches per weapon. And that doesn't sound extreme to me, but again, that number could kind of be tweaked. But I don't see why you would be an expert on a weapon without ever having used it first. And again, this could kind of add an achievement to the game. If you completed the dual millimeter 9, wow, I said that weird, 9mm pistol page, it would, give you the achievement for 9mm master or whatever it might be. Top off this idea of, menu achievements, if you will, or play the game X number of times to unlock this arbitrary thing kind of concept that I enjoy, although maybe not everyone would, and I accept that. Um, Again, the Killing Floor 2 website has some really great, I guess you'd call it cover art, I'll call it concept art, whatever, images of all their maps. And I think those are great, and they deserve to be shown off. And they include little lore blurbs about the map. Um, I think that this should be a menu, and each entry is unlocked after beating the map on normal, and then the lore is unlocked after the little lore blurb there that you see on the airship thing is unlocked after collecting all the 10 collectibles, which is already an achievement, which is fine. And then I think the addition of a difficulty border would be really cool. So each one of these maps would be kind of bordered in a color or whatever it may be, similar to what the prestige system is doing now with the class icons, to kind of display the highest level difficulty that you've beaten on that map, or maybe even icons, around it or different style borders to display that you've beaten it on survival, endless, and objective, or daily, or weekly, or whatever that might be, right? Certain games like Binding of Isaac and Vermintide 2, I think already do this quite well, and there's examples for how that system kind of works in production, if you will. I think it'd be a good addition to the game. It would encourage me to branch out and stop playing the maps that I enjoy. Well, I shouldn't even say enjoy. I like all the maps, but I'm a sucker for, say, Zed Island, and I play that map a lot. Well, give me a reason to go play Paris again or Evacuation Zone by making me unlock these borders. All right, this one's kind of a give me. Obviously, the community that loves Killing Floor 2 loved Killing Floor 1, and so more Killing Floor in Killing Floor is a good idea. So I think that there should be additional returning characters, maps, and weapons. The development team's already really good about this. So I shouldn't even say that this is an important slide, but I look forward to it. I think characters like, bringing back Mr. Lots, or some of the classic weapons, or the maps like Mountain Complex or West London or whatever the community votes for is a great idea. And, the development team should strive to do this more. Although, honestly, that probably sounds kind of weird because I think they already do it quite a lot, but keep it up, I guess. This is pretty self-explanatory, so I'll move on. Weapons are always fun. Ultimately, this game is about killing the Zed and killing them with a variety of tools. So obviously the addition of new weapons is always a reason to launch the game and give them a go, if you will. I don't know how this is a zombie game without a chainsaw. I know we have the Eviscerator, which is cool, but we just need a classic chainsaw. I think some World War II era weapons would be great. I would love to use, any bolt-action World War II era rifle in this game. It would be extremely ineffective, probably, but it would still be fun, and I think that's what the game's about, or at least a good way to challenge yourself. I don't know how we have a SWAT class that doesn't have a SWAT shield available to it as a melee weapon. Whether or not the SWAT would be able to hold probably a handgun as well as the shield at the same time is unclear to me, but it sounds awesome and I think it should be in the game. I think there should be an homage to Shaun of the Dead. Give me a cricket bat. Just kidding, it's kind of a joke, but I wouldn't refute its addition. And then, Killing Floor 2 already has some futuristic weapons, to say the least, especially the medic weapons. So I think the addition of a plasma weapon or an energy weapon that is, a cutting action, such as those in, Fallout or the Dead Space universe would be a really awesome addition to the game. Let's talk map ideas. Um, I don't think my ideas for maps are the absolute best, but after seeing Lockdown out of this new update, I'm kind of tired of fighting in space stations. I thought the airship was refreshing, but the steampunk theme kind of still made me feel like I was on some sort of weird medieval space station. So I do think a little bit of variety in the maps would be cool. I've never seen a Killing Floor 2 map with some good fall colors. I'm picturing something kind of with some foggy mist, maybe a little drizzly and outdoors again. I think that'd be great. I would love to play around a Killing Floor 2 in a shopping mall, around some stores and a food court, maybe some vaporwave color scheme going on in there. I think that'd be different and fun, and it would match the John Wick 2 soundtrack pretty well. I think playing around a Killing Floor in a neighborhood, at dusk or early morning would be kind of spooky. I really like the farmhouse map because it feels so grounded in reality. But with a little bit of a modern twist, I think that'd be, fun. And then finally, I think a map that shows some actual carnage would be good. Killing Floor 2 is a universe overran by hordes of Zed, and I'm to believe that there haven't been other people fighting them in the environments that I'm in. Usually there's little bits and pieces of this in maps, especially like the outdoor maps, whether it be through overturned cars or car accidents or, the occasional body. But honestly, just throw me into a map with dead Zed everywhere and soldiers and shell casings and emergency vehicles and really just drop me into a battlefield that was, lost and make me feel like wherever I'm at didn't go well last time, so let me see how I fare in the same environment. Really go full throttle. I've never seen that done on a Killing Floor map, and I think it'd be cool. Maps, I think the addition of an actually dark map would be a good idea. So, Vermintide 2, which is kind of a similar game in many regards, pulled this off fairly well with the map Hunger in the Dark, and in that game you don't even have a flashlight or night vision, so I think it can be done in this game. I think that map would just have to have a flag to where you have an infinite flashlight battery or, infinite night vision battery. Um, this game is about killing zombies, but at this point I don't really feel the fear that I, felt the first time I played this game, or really even kind of the adrenaline at times. And that's my fault because I've put hundreds of hours into it, but the addition of a map that's actually dark and requires me to utilize, the light technology, I think would be entertaining, and it would add an extra level of challenge to the game, specifically on that map. Map ideas, I believe a Z variant of Mutilated would be a great addition to this game. This kind of goes back to my idea of drop me into a battlefield map. When I'm playing this game, am I to believe that none of the Zed have ever fought somebody else in the world, or even, fought amongst themselves, which we see in the game when Husks, accidentally shoot flesh pounds and they get into a brawl. So for these reasons, I think the Clots, the Cysts, the Slashers, I think they should have a chance to spawn in a mutilated variant. And that could be something like they're legless, they're missing an arm, they're already covered in blood. Maybe they're just maimed, maybe they have their skull exposed already. Maybe they have no jaw. Whatever it might be, the gore system is already built into the game to kind of do this, and I think it would add, just that extra level of visceralness, immersion, gore, horror, whatever you want to call it. I think it'd be a good addition. It's new Zed. I think adding new Zed to this game is really difficult. I think the EDAR is a great example of that kind of gone astray. And I think that's because we already have good variety and balance between the Zed types. So, this is my only idea of a Zed that I think would be interesting addition to the game, outside of the Elite Husk variant that I already discussed in regard to the EDAR. So yeah, the Necro is my kind of idea here. So this guy would be like really weak. He'd be timid and non-aggressive. He'd be more likely to keep his distance from the players. So when you're engaged killing, gore fasts that are sprinting into your face, this guy sits in the back and begins resurrecting recently fallen Zed. So the rate at which they resurrect and, how powerful of a Zed they can resurrect, like, does it stop at a Scrake? Or can they do flesh pounds? Or, who can they resurrect? Would be dependent on difficulty. Obviously, I think these resurrected Zed would have to have a distinct look to them, possibly an aura, or whatever. They just have to be obvious that that was a resurrected Zed. So I think these guys could be slower than normal Zed. I think they can do less damage than a normal Zed. They would just be a worse version of what they were before you killed them. And I think that's fair. I think that's balanced. And it's not necessarily, out to kill you, but it definitely is still a resource strain on your ammo and, increases the odds that you're overrun by what's occurring. So these guys would basically be a non-threat, if you took them out quickly and from a distance and your team was looking for them and coordinating, similar to how, teamwork works around killing Skrakes or Flesh Pounds at a distance before they get to the team. But, this guy could also be really punishing if you ignore him in the back and you let him bring up a bunch of previously killed Zed and suddenly you got to kill him again. And for someone that says, this isn't Warcraft or this isn't an RPG and, resurrection technology and magic doesn't exist in a Killing Floor universe, I would counter with, we have medic weapons that shoot you with darts and heal you. I don't know why that same technology couldn't be implemented into this guy, and he's just using the healing technology in some sort of weird, messed up Zed way, similar to a Husk cannon, to bring back some of his dead friends. Finally, I think a new boss that focuses on actually killing Zed instead of shooting a bullet sponge boss would be a nice addition to the game. In my mind, this boss would just be the Horde, and it would be, a fast and dangerous round of engineered packs of zombies, including a much higher number of, easy Zed, such as cysts or clots, than normal. So this wouldn't necessarily be, let's say, as hard as King Fleshpound, but it would still be a nice relief from fighting bosses like Hans or the Patriarch for the third time in a row. When I'm playing Endless and I get a cyst-only wave, it's super entertaining. Not because it's hard, but because it's just a blast to shoot a ton of cysts at once. So I get kind of an example down there, right? Maybe you have a round and it's 2 Necros, 4 Rioters, 15 Slashers, and 30 Clots, right? And that would be, a lot. And I don't know, maybe in my mind I'm picturing that for like a duo situation. Obviously the numbers would scale depending on the number of players and the difficulty, as the game already does. But I don't see this boss being a problem. And you could argue, well, I just fought the Horde for, X number of rounds in survival. Why do I want to fight him again? Good point. I don't know. Maybe that's just what I enjoy out of the game. So yeah, take that as you will, I guess. In conclusion, I think this game is wonderful, and I think it's underappreciated. I think this game has a lot of potential. And although it's not an RPG, I do think it could use some more progression type elements. And, I think it's important to remember that variety makes this game great, and it's okay to scare me a little bit more in a game like this. So with that, thanks for listening if you made it this far through. I am fine with feedback. This is what I want from the game. I'm not a game developer. I don't necessarily know what's possible in the engine and what isn't, but I think what I suggested is reasonable given technical constraints. And I'm sure not everyone will agree with me on every point, which is perfectly fine.